7 points clear, 22 wins from 28 games, the best goal difference in Serie A, a debut manager on course for one of the greatest title-winning points tallies in Italian football history. On paper, Inter Milan looked really untouchable, slowly, methodically, with a lot of structure and quality, being undoubtedly the best team in Italy. But their fans are not fully satisfied, and that's a problem. So, why does it feel like we've seen this movie before? Why does it feel like no matter how dominant Inter look for 11 months of the year, when the calendar turns to the moments that actually matter, the finals, the derbies, the nights under the lights, something inside the club just breaks? So, this is the story of Inter Milan, the best team in Italy, but still can't win when it counts. Now, just a quick disclaimer that despite everything we say in this video, it's absolutely certain that Inter are the highest quality team in Italy on a purely sporting level. And yes, they're almost certain to win the Scudetto, even though they lost to Milan for a second time this season. So, let's go back. Not too far, just 3 years, because that's when the pattern truly begins. Istanbul, the Champions League final. Inter versus Manchester City, the most powerful team in the world at that time. Against Inter, who belonged there, they had beaten Barcelona, Benfica and AC Milan to reach that stage. They had Lautaro, Barella, Brozovic, Bastoni in his first very strong years, 23 years old at the time. Many people were surprised that Inter qualified for the final, but actually they were playing organised football and it was clearly working. Even in the final, Inter played well, even though they were expected to lose. Then, Rodri scored after a well-organised attack from City, and that was how the final ended. Inter had a lot of chances to score, but Lukaku missed most of them. Okay, you might say. They lost the final to the best club team of their generation and arguably of the last decade. Don't be ashamed, we'll be back. And they were back, except the fact that what happened next was so much worse. Fast forward to March 2025, Simone Inzaghi, one of the best managers in Europe at that point, is talking about the quadruple. Not the double, not the treble, the quadruple. And all that came during the press conference after Inter found out that they'll be playing PSV in the Champions League round of 16. That's how confident Inzaghi was. And you can't fully hate him when 2 months later, Inter was still in the fight for the treble, plus the Club World Cup at the end of the season in mind. But then, in the space of basically 3 weeks, it all collapsed. It started with AC Milan in the Coppa Italia semi-finals. First leg, 1-1 at San Siro. Fine. Uncomfortable, but manageable. Then the second leg, a 3-0 thrashing at home. In front of their own fans, Inter were dismantled, gone from a cup they were expected to win. 4 days later, Inter lost to Roma. This, added to the loss against Bologna the previous week, had a detrimental effect on Inter's chances of winning the Scudetto against Napoli. After round 32, Inter were 3 points ahead of Napoli. 2 weeks later, that lead already belonged to the Partenopei. Many people, mainly Napoli fans, were overjoyed when Conte won the Scudetto in his first season at the club. However, to be completely honest and objective, we have to say that Napoli won the title because Inter fell apart at the final hurdle, not because Napoli were the much better side. Now, before we continue, our analytics showed that for the last month, 96% of you are actively watching our content, and that would mean 5+ videos in this period without being subscribed. So here's a quick invitation to hit the subscribe button, and thank you. So the equation was simple, 2 trophies gone in a week. Now, there's only one chance left to save the season. Munich, the Champions League final, Inter versus Paris Saint-Germain. After an incredibly competitive and inspiring semi-final, in which Inter beat Barcelona 7-6 on aggregate, the Nerazzurri were eager to win. Everything was going well, until it wasn't. Was it because they were playing those strange away kits that looked odd from the outset? Or were Inter simply the far worse team on the pitch? Either way, that 5-0 defeat will forever be etched in their history. After all, this is the largest margin of victory in a European Cup final ever. Afterwards, Inzaghi left the team after failing to deliver in the most crucial moments. 0 trophies. An entire season, one of the most promising in modern Italian football history, was reduced to nothing. So, what do you do after something like that? You make a change, new energy, new ideas. Inter brought in Christian Chivu, club legend, beloved by the fans, and by his own admission, a manager with essentially zero experience at the top level. And domestically, fair enough, it looks like it's worked. The numbers this season are extraordinary, nobody can deny it. 7 points clear, on course for around 93 points, which would be one of the greatest title hauls in Serie A history. The 5th best if we're being accurate. Chivu deserves enormous credit for that, especially when he's achieving it in his first major season in big-time coaching. But then, the Champions League. Here's where the pattern continues. Yes, the opponents were tough. The schedule even tougher. But when you're by far the best Italian side in the tournament and have just been a finalist in 2 of the last 3 editions, nothing should stop you. In the first 4 games, Inter had easy fixtures and were actually sitting in the top 3 after winning all 4 of them. But then, when the big games came knocking, Inter fumbled them all. November 26. Inter travelled to Madrid to face Atletico. They're unbeaten in the competition at that point. Everything is going well. 50 minutes in, after Zielinski equalised, it looked like Inter would take a point and move on. Then they tasted their own medicine when they conceded from a corner in stoppage time. 2 weeks later, the same thing happened against Liverpool. Against a poor Liverpool side, Inter lost again after Bastoni conceded a penalty at a crucial moment. When you've just lost the 2 easy of the tougher fixtures, it's understandable that you might lose hope. And that's exactly what happened. At the Miazza, Inter lost a game in which they should have at least got a point against Arsenal. They lost 3-1, and now their top 8 fate wasn't in their hands. Yes, Inter eventually won against Borussia Dortmund in Germany, but that wasn't enough. Nevertheless, they drew a favourable opponent, the Norwegian sensation Bodo Glimt, who made the headlines after beating Manchester City and Atletico Madrid to secure their place in the playoffs. Nevertheless, almost everyone favoured Inter in this encounter, but it looked like we were all wrong. Inter lost arguably one of the most shameful matches in history to a club from a town located in the Arctic Circle. Yes, that's how far north Bodo is located in Norway. Bodo literally have a population that's smaller than the number of seats at the Giuseppe Meazza. Come on. But what really gets me is the shameless excuses used by Chivu. I find him very intelligent and I loved his style of play during his career as a player. I also like what he's brought to the table and the fact that he's been practically unbeatable in Italy in his first professional coaching season. But you can't come out with the "we tried to win despite the pitch, I can't be too hard on the boys" after playing on this artificial pitch after losing the first leg. And that's just the beginning. After the second leg, the explanation was, "I've no reason to criticise the boys. With 10 players in the box defending, it was really difficult. Energy is difficult to find when you play every 3 days. We wanted to get through, even if we knew it wasn't going to be easy against a team that has only played 4 games in the last 2 months. Bro, you literally have names like Bastoni, Barella and Di Marco, 3 players who are among the top 5 in the world in their respective positions, as well as world-renowned footballers like Lautaro, Martinez and Marcus Thuram. And your excuse is that the pitch is artificial or that the opponent has played 4 games in the last 2 months. And when you think about it, after him coming up with this excuse, we can absolutely counter him with the "okay, they've played 4 games in the last 60 days and you played 4 games in the last 2 weeks. So your players, who are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars more than the opponent by the way, must be in a lot better form and shape entering a game like this, in which you have all the advantages possible, including the fact that you played the second leg at home." Look, I have no beef with Chivu or Inter as a whole, but we should be realistic, especially when they lose twice to their arch rivals and biggest competitors for the Scudetto. Yes, they'll probably win, but that doesn't change the fact that Inter have struggled in the biggest games, especially in the last 5 or 6 years. I can even go back to the 2020 Europa League final when they were favourites to win against a Sevilla side that was already in decline but failed to convert once again. Or last season's Supercoppa against Milan. So, here's the big question. Have Inter turned into a serial underperformer on the biggest stage and in the biggest of games, not to mention other crucial games this season, including the 2 against Napoli in the league, as well as the first against Juventus back in September? Or are these just individual games that shouldn't be used to draw conclusions? And one more trickier one. Do you have the feeling that Inter's most important players, including Lautaro, Di Marco, Thuram, etc., hide in the biggest games? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you want a more comprehensive analysis on why Italian clubs have performed so poorly in Europe, click on this one right here.